One may not buy slaves, land, or impure animals with seventh year's proceeds, and if he did, he must eat for its equivalent. One may not bring burnt offerings of men or women who suffered a flux, or burnt offerings of women after childbirth, bought with seventh year proceeds, and if one did, he must eat for its equivalent. One may not anoint vessels with seventh year oil, and if he did, he must eat for its equivalent. Um, if a hide has been smeared with seventh year oil, Reb Eliezer says it must be burnt. But the Chachamim say it must eat for its equivalent. They said before Rabbi Akiva and Reb Eliezer used to say a hide which has been smeared with seventh year oil must be burnt. He said to them, "Be silent. I will not tell you what Reb Eliezer said about this." They also said before him that Rabbi Eliezer used to say, "He who eats bread of the Kutins is like one who eats pork." He said to them, "Be silent. I will not tell you what Eliezer said about this." Okay.
Right. So, moving on to Yud Aleph. Merchat shehuska b'tevin or b'kash shel Sheviis. So now, let's say that there was a bathhouse that was, they've got heated water over there, and the fuel that they used was from straw, that came from Shemitah produce. Okay, so even though lechatchila it's asked to do this, since because they are fitting for animal fodder. Okay, but nonetheless, but the abad, if they were used for kindling to warm the bathhouse, mutar lechotzba. So you're still allowed to wash in that water. But the abad it's still okay. However, if the person in question is a chashuv yid, and uh, then he's not allowed to use this bathhouse. Why? Because if the balan hears that let's say he's the mayor of the city or whatever,
Mm.
um, he should then he shouldn't come to this bathhouse because the balan is going to hear, oh, the mayor is coming quickly. Let me make a nice fire and make sure that the water is nice and warm, and he'll deliberately take the shmitta straw and use that for a fire.
Okay.
Okay. Perik tes apegam hayabuzim ashotim. So okay, what we're going to list over here is a list of species, which I'll jump to the end of the sentence so we know what we're talking about, and then we'll talk about say which species this applies to. Nilkachim Peturim min hamasras. These species are all going to be pata from maser. But nilkachim mikol adam b'shvius, and may be purchased from any person during shvius. She'en kiyota behem nishmar, because people just don't guard these kinds of species. They're not harvested. And anything that's found is presumed to come from Hefker. So let's just take a look at the species. You know what? Pegam yarbuzim shotin chalag blogos kusbar shibaharim v'karpas shibanaharis v'gargar shalafar. Let's just hear your translation of all these things.
Rue is a vegetable that grows mainly in the hilly regions of Eretz Israel. Goosefoot, a wild amaranthus,
Amaranthus.
right, possibly asparagus. Another version says that's yarbuzin and shitim. According to the Rosh, the former are wood sorrel whose flavor resembles that of vine twigs, and the latter asparagus. A parslin is an edible plant called also regalam,
Regila. Yeah.
okay, portulac, and hill coriander, which grows in mountains regions, water parsley, celery, which grows by the river, meadow berries or meadow ikruka. All these are always exempt from Maasros because they usually derive from Hefker, which is exempt from Maaseh.
Yeah. Okay. So there's no master on them because they come from Hefker, and there's no restriction on who you purchase from. Now, what we learn from this is that if you have people who are Amei Aretz and not so expert in what the halachas of Shias, then we see that it actually, in general, like normal farmed produce, we shouldn't purchase from the Amiyaretz because they might not be so familiar with all the dinim of Shvius and what can be sold and what can't be. And furthermore, they don't know, they're not versed in the halachas of what to do with the money that they get for the Shvius. They don't know that this also has to be treated with Ketushas Shvius. So because they don't know the halachas, we don't want to cause them any have any mixture happen through our participation, and therefore you shouldn't purchase from them. But purchasing the things that come from the hefker, well, actually, that what I just said doesn't make sense because even hefker stuff that grew during Sheviis, I mean, everything is hefker. The problem is that it's not nishmar. I mean, the reason is that it's not nishmar, but you might have an Am Haaretz who's kept his garden locked, and he's got things that are growing in his garden, and he's got excess, so he decides to come and sell them, and that's called nishmar, and there he's participating basically in an avera, he protected his shmita produce inside his home, and so you shouldn't purchase from him. But so we learn from the klal of what you can buy from him, that there are things that you can't buy from him.
There's something I'm confused about. I'm sure we learned about it, and I don't remember it. So, and I'm probably just completely off bat here. If I go to the field and I'm collecting hefker for myself,
Yes,
okay, does that mean I don't have to take maestros from it because it's
correct.
hefker?
Correct.
Not at all.
If it is hefker, there are no chumas and mastras. So, for example, you have mallow. That mallow is that vegetable that plant that grows all around in the hills of Jerusalem. They used to eat it during the siege of Jerusalem during the War of Independence,
Right.
very much in Yani Diyama this week. But during the siege of Jerusalem, like the restaurants were serving all were just serving mallow. They would go out into the fields and harvest all the mallow, and because it's just completely a hefker. Nobody grows it in the garden, but it's all edible. Tastes a bit like
What is it?
lettuce.
What is mallow? What is it?
I'll have to look it up for you and send you a link.
Okay.
But you see it growing everywhere around here, and yeah, it just tastes a bit like lettuce. It's got
Uh,
and a little slightly sweet aftertaste, um, and that's what kept them through the siege. But you don't have to take Trumas and Masters from it because it's hefker, correct? Even though
that's
you
any
brought it to your
produce?
home.
Any produce at all?
Anything
Fruits,
that's hefker,
vegetables?
only if it's hefker. If it comes from a field
Right.
and somebody gave you a present or whatever, then you do need to take Trumas and
Hmm.
Masters.
Someone gave you as a gift, then you have to take the truvas and maestros.
Right.
Right. But if you go out
Um,
and collect on your own, then
or if somebody says, "Yeah, you're welcome. Go pick as many apples as you want from my tree. I don't mind." So you're picking them, then you have to take Trumas and Masters. He wasn't mafkir them. He said you can go and take some apples. But if some
right.
random person came off the street and said, "No, you get away from my apples. Those are mine."
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Um, all right. So back into our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Sfiche Chardal Mutarin Shelo Nechshedu Aleihin Over Avera. It says furthermore, anything that all the mustard that's sprouted by itself, that's all permitted, because the Avarianim aren't suspected of growing mustard. It's not a common thing. But however, the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. We don't trust them on mustard because there is somewhat of a crop over there. Rabbi Shimon Omer Kol Asfichin Mutarin Chutz Misfiche Kruv. Anything that typically grows by itself in the field is mutar, except for cabbage. She'en kiyotze behem biyarkos sadeh. Which means that because most of these things come from guarded produce. Right? These will definitely be things that are cultivated in a private garden. And Chachamim say that you are not allowed to buy any sfichim that basically vegetables that sprout in the middle of the field from an Am Haaretz, because maybe they came from something that was guarded.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay. Shlosh aratzos lebiur. There are 3 territories as regards the mitzvah of biur. Okay, Yehuda, the Aver Hayarden, the Hagalil. So you have the three territories of Yehuda, Eber, Yarden, and Galil. Now, interesting, the Eber Yarden is a bit of discussion about whether this is Mamish Eber Yarden or if it's just an area that is right next to the Yarden. I think the easiest, it's difficult to explain that Eber Yarden is actually on the west side of the Jordan because and it's just like a strip on the side because it's also very close to Yehuda. Um,
Mm.
so it seems to be easiest to talk about Eber HaYarden, and even though Eber HaYarden is not actually part of Eretz Israel, it was nonetheless included midrabanan if in Trumas and Masros. Okay, so you have a mitzvah derabanan of Trumas and Masros in Eber HaYarden, and therefore we're talking about them all on the same level, even though Yehuda and Galil are midoraisa and Yarden Eber Yarden is derabanan. Okay,
It's on the west side, but they're not considering it part of Eretz Israel.
no, on the east side.
Oh, I think it's the
Eber
west
Yarden, I'm saying on the east side. That
side.
it's actually really Transjordan.
Right, right.
Okay. All right. Yehuda, Eber, then Galil. Shalosh aratzos l'chol achas v'achas, and each of those is subdivided into three territories. Okay. Galil ha'elyon. So what does this mean? Basically, is that when you have biur, each territory can function independently, which means that just because the Galil Hatachton doesn't have any more of a certain vegetable, but the Galil Elyon does, you don't have to do biur yet in the Galil Elyon. If there's still vegetables in the field, then your time for biur has not yet arrived. Okay, so each territory basically functions as an independent unit, and you only have to do biur when the vegetables are no longer available in your territory. Okay. שלוש ארצות לכל אחת ואחת. גליל העליון, גליל התחתון והעמק. So there are three areas in the Galil, upper and the lower and the Amek. So what are the boundaries? מכפר חנניה ולמעלה. So the town called כפר חנניה. כל שאינו מגדל שיקמין, גליל העליון. Anywhere where the shikma, that's the sycamore, doesn't grow anymore, that's called the Galil Elyon. ומכפר חנניה ולמטה, כל שהוא מגדל שיקמין, Galil Atachton. Anything that does that's that does grow sycamores is called the Galil Atachton. Utchum Taveria Ha'emek, and the area around Taveria is called the basin. Okay.
Okay.
Yehuda, so in the land of Yehuda, Har Hashvela Ha'emek, there's the mountain, there's the plain, and the valley. Okay. Ushvelas Lud Kishvelas Hadarom. The plain of Lud is like the plain of the south, the Har Shela Har Melech, and the mountainous part is like Har Hamelech. What does that mean? That its din is the same din as the area of Har Hamelech. Okay. Umi Beis Choron Ad Hayam, and from Beis Choron, which is basically around Modi'in, Ad Hayam. Medina Achas. So that whole plain down to the sea is considered one territory as far as biur is concerned. Interesting. I think I recall this Kfar Hanania as in somewhere in the Mishnah where we were dealing with a man who gave his wife a get al Tanai. I don't know if that was in Gittin or if that was in Nadarim or something like that, where he said if I leave the country, and he got to Kfar Hanania, and there was some nafkamin about getting to Kfar Hanania, but I don't
I
remember where that
remember.
Mishnah was. Do you recall it?
No, I don't. I remember the Mishnah, but I don't remember where it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think
Okay.
it's
So
such and such a
like me.
place, and, right?
I just saw the name here of Kfar Hanania again, and I thought, I remember this town has featured before.
Mm,
Okay, that's our new Mishnah for the day.
okay. Um,
Hey
okay.
Tess.
A woman may lend her neighbor who is suspect in regard to the seventh year a sifter, a sieve, a handmill, or an oven, and she may not sift or grind with her. The wife of a chaver may lend to his wife of an ama oretz a sifter, a sieve, and she may sift, grind, or refine with her. But once she's poured water on it, she may not touch with her, for one may not aid transgressors. But all of these things were said solely for the sake of peace, and one may encourage non-Jews in the seventh year, but not Jews, and one may greet them for the sake of peace. There are three territories in regard to the seventh year. all that which the ascendants from Babylon occupied of Eretz Israel as far as Kaziv, may not be eaten or cultivated, and all that ascendants from Egypt occupied from Kaziv as far as the river, and until Amana may be eaten but not cultivated. From the river and Amana inward, it may be eaten and cultivated. In Syria, one may attend to the detached, but not to the attached. One may thresh, winnow, thread, and bind, but not harvest, nor neither grapes nor pick olives. Rabbi Akiva laid down a general rule: the like of whatsoever is permitted in Eretz Israel may be done in Syria. Okay.
Right, Kilayim Dalet Zayin.
Lion. If one plants one row on his and one row in his neighbor's, and a private road and a public road is in the middle, or a fence lower than 10 tefachim, they combine. However, higher than 10 tefachim, they do not combine. Rabbi Yehuda says, if one intertwines them above, they combine. If one plants two rows, and there are not 8 cubits between them, they may not bring seeds there. If there were 3, and if there are not 16 between one row and another, he may not bring seeds there. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says in the name of Chanina ben Chanina, even if the middle one was laid waste and there were not 16 cubits between one row and another, he may not bring seeds there, though if he had planted them from the first, he would be permitted with 8. If one plants his vineyard 16 cubits apart, he may bring seeds there. Rabbi Yehuda said it happened in Talmon that a man planted his vineyard 16 cubits apart and turned the tips of the branches of 2 rows to one side and sowed the plowed ground. And the following year he turned the tips of the branches to the other side and sowed the fallow ground. And the matter came before the Chachamim, and they permitted it. Reb Meir and Reb Shimon said, if one plants his vineyard 8 cubits apart, it is also permitted.
Okay. Okay. Tvul Yom Gimel Vav.
Regarding a tahor person who was chewing some food and it fell upon his clothing and upon a loaf of truma, the loaf is tahor. If he was eating crushed olives or moist dates and any fruit whose pit he desired to suck, and it fell upon his clothing and upon a loaf of truma, the loaf is tameh. If he was eating dried olives or dried dates or any fruit whose pit he did not desire to suck, and it fell upon his clothing and upon a loaf of truma, the loaf is tahor. Both the tahor person and the tevel yom share these laws. Meir says both these and those are tameh in the case of a tevel yom, for the beverages of a tameh person affect texture, both when he desires of them and when he is not desirous of them. But the comments say a tevel yom is not considered a tameh person.
Right, and that's the whole deal. Is that the Tvul Yom is not actually tameh. He's got a tumah derabanan on him that which makes him into basically a sheni latuma. But the liquid, but he also has the property that unlike other sheni latuma, he is not metame liquids.
Regarding produce of Misa that was rendered susceptible to Tuma by a beverage and it was touched by a Tevel Yom or by unclean hands, we separate Tumas Misas from it in Tahara, because the Misa Rishon is a Shlishi, and a Shlishi is Tahor in the case of Chulin. A woman who is a Tevel Yom may need a dough, and when she separates challah and sets it aside and places it in an Egyptian tray or on a plank, and she brings the tray or plank close and orally designates the piece of dough as challah, because the dough is a shlishi, and a shlishi is ta, or in the case of chulin.
You see, so in order to separate her challah, she can actually separate it while she's still with her hands as a tvul yom, right, because the dough will not become tameh from her. It's only as soon as she designates it as challah that now it's basically got the din of truma, and then she's got to be careful not to touch it again. But she can designate it without touching it.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Kalim. Kalim. If one made an esplanas plaster, whether of cloth or of leather, it is tahor. Rabbi Yossi says if it is of leather, it is tahor. If he made a milugma plaster, it is of cloth. If it is tahor, if it is of leather, it is tameh. Reb Shimon ben Gamil says even if it is made of cloth, it is tameh, since it can't be shaken off. Concerning scroll covers, whether they are ornamented or whether they are not ornamented, they are tameh according to the opinion of Beit Shammai. Beis Hillel says ornamented ones are tahor, but those that are not ornamented are tameh. And Rabbi Gamliel says both these and those are tahor.
Now, why would we make a difference between Matsuyaros if they're ornamented or not? Because they're made for the tashmish, for the noya sfarim and lo tashmish adam. Because then that shows that they're made for the object and not for a person to use. But if they're unornamented, then it's used. Then it's for people to use, and
Yes.
therefore it becomes tameh. Okay.
Okay. If a kerchief was tamei midras and one gave it over to be used as a cover for a Torah scroll, it becomes tahor from midras tuma, uh, but it is tamei with corpse tuma. If a water skin was made into a mat, or a mat was made into a water skin, it's tahor. If a water skin was made into a shepherd's pouch, or a shepherd's pouch was made into a water skin, water skin. It is if a pillow was made into a bed sheet, or a bed sheet was made into a pillow. If a mattress was made into a flat sheet, or a flat sheet was made into a mattress, it remains tahor. This is the general rule. Any article that is changed into an article of the same type of use retains its tuma. If it is changed into an article of a different type of use, it is tahor. Okay, I just have a question in the beginning here. Um, if the cover to the Torah scroll, okay, um, uh, okay, it becomes tamei from midrash tuma, but uh, but it's tamei if it's tamei with corpse tuma. Why
Which
would we put?
which Mishnah are we looking at?
I'm sorry, the one I just did. Hey,
Okay.
it says if kerchief was tamei midrash and one gave it over to be used as a cover for a Torah scroll, it becomes tahor for midrash tuma, but it is tamei with corpse tuma.
But it's just susceptible. It means it's susceptible to corpse tumor.
All right, so I have
So
to touch it.
once it's lost its midrash tumor, then because it's been converted, it's a new object. So
Okay,
whatever it received as a midrash, it becomes tahor.
like, I was wondering why they would put a tamei item on a Torah scroll. Just so, but it's susceptible to it. It would actually have to touch the corpse. So, if a
Or
patch was
okay, that's it. We've done 3 in
really,
Caleb. Yeah,
oh,
I think so.
disappointed. All right, we have Sheviis. Gimel. I have a lita of gold in your possession, and the other replies, you have in my possession only a litra of silver. He's exempt. But if he claims, I have a dinner of gold in your possession, and the other replies, you have in my possession only a dinner of silver, or a tristis, or a pinion, or a peruta, he is liable because all coins are of one type. I have a core of grain in your possession, and the other replies, you have in my possession only a less of beans, he is exempt. But if he claims, I have a core of produce in your possession, and the other replies, you have in my possession only a list of beans, he's liable, since beans are included in produce.
Remember the reason the din that we said with the Moed Miktas is that the Hodah has to be the same min as
Right.
the Nitva, as what the claim is the Tviya.
If he claimed from him wheat and he admitted to him barley, he is exempt, but Reb Gamil declares him liable. If one claims jars of oil from another and he admits to him the jars, Adman says since he has admitted to him a part of the kind of a claim, he must swear. But the Chachamim say the admission is not the kind of the claim, and Reb Gamil says I see Adman's view. If he claimed from him utensils and land, and he admitted the utensils but denied the land, or he admitted the land and denied the utensils, he is exempt. But if he admitted part of the land, he is exempt part of the utensils, he is liable. Because property which cannot have a lien on it causes one to swear concerning property which can have a lien on it. There is no oath in response to the claim of a deaf mute, a mentally deranged person, or a minor, and we cannot impose an oath on a minor, but one swears to a minor and about consecrated property. Okay. These are the things for which no oath is imposed: slaves, legal documents, land, and consecrated property. Neither is there twofold payment, nor fourfold, nor fivefold payment. An unpaid shomer does not swear, a paid shomer does not pay. And Reb Shimon says concerning consecrated things for which no one is responsible, an oath is imposed. But concerning those for which one is responsible, no oath is imposed. Okay? Okay. I think that's it, right?
That's it, yes. And
And we go to
yeah,
Tanis.
Tinus.
It happened in the days of Reb Kalafta and Reb Hanania ben Trajan that one went before the ark and completed the entire blessing, but they did not respond Amen after the blessing. Sound the tekiah, O Kohanim, sound the tekiah. He who answered our father Avram on Mount Moriah, he shall answer you and hearken to the sound of your cry this day. Sound the teruma, O sons of Aaron, sound the teruma. He who answered our fathers at the Red Sea, he shall answer you and hearken to the sound of your cry this day. When the matter came before the Chachamim, they said, such was not our custom except at the eastern gate and on the Temple Mount. On the first three fast days, the Kohanim of the Mishmar fast, but do not complete their fast. The Kohanim of the Beis Av do not fast at all. On the second three fast days, the Kohanim of the Mishmar fast and complete their fast. The Kohanim of the Beis Av fast, but do not complete their fast. On the last 7 days, fast days, both groups fast and complete their fast, and this is the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. But the Kohanim say on the first three fast days, neither group fast at all. On the second three fast days, the Kohanim of the Mishmar fast, but do not complete their fast. And the Kohanim of the Beis Av do not fast at all. On the last 7 days, on the last 7 fast days, the Kohanim of the Mishmar fast and complete their fast, and the Kohanim of the Beis Av fast, but do not complete their fast. The Kohanim of the Mishmar are permitted to drink wine at night, but not during the day. The Kohanim of the Beit Av are not permitted to drink wine during the day or during the night. The Kohanim of the Mishmar and the men of the Mamad are prohibited from haircutting and laundering. However, on Thursday, these activities are permitted in honor of Shabbos.
Okay,
All right.
I'd come.
Okay, good. Have you heard anything about? I don't think anything's happening with Yom Ha'atzmaut. I haven't heard. We were just talking. I know you always go to Har
But
Zion.
Sion.
I don't know if you have the recording on, so I don't know if you want to shut the
Oh,
recording.
the